boss makes the whole experience.
It took me so many attempts.
He is not fun. I cried.
And I just gave him one backhand and he was done.
Bad, corrupt, depraved, destructive, execrable, hateful, heinous, malevolent, malicious, nefarious, unpleasant, vile, villainous. No, I'm not talking about the producers of this show. I'm talking about video game bosses. Hello and welcome to Talk on gTV. My name is Inel Tomlinson, subbing in for Jayan Lopez. So, why the deep dive into the thesaurus? I want to talk about a topic inseparable from video games. Bosses. You're already shivering, aren't you? Does it bring back bad memories? Or maybe some good ones, depending on your level of masochism. I'm looking at you, Dark Souls players. Does that big drop of sweat that falls down onto the keyboard ring a bell? Finger tendinitis from holding that trigger for too long? Sound familiar? And of course, the doctor that comes in at the worst possible moment to bring his Xanax. No? What are you doing watching this video then? The boss is a very special kind of enemy and very different to any other that you'll come across. The encounter with the boss is generally the game's defining standout moment, a symbol, a staging post, a rite of passage, and the big finale to the end of the game as long as you're still in one piece. This bad guy who must be beaten is a must in the video game world. It's like a caterpie in the Jade Forest or a charity campaigner in central London. Impossible not to bump into. Bosses turn up in all genres. Platform games, fighting games, and first-person shooters, and even in perfume ads. And while they are a pain in the neck, bosses do leave long-lasting memories. The intermediary bosses you can never shake off, like in Dark Souls Remastered. The bosses that will beat the living daylights out of you in under a minute in Bloodborne. Zeus in God of War, the King of Olympus. You have to literally climb a mountain to beat this bad boy. Sephiroth, one of the most detestable baddies in the world, despite his mega cool silver hair. The terrible Zora Magdaros in Monster Hunter World, a fearsome remake of David and Goliath. Reflux in Rayman 3, who has worn everyone who has met him into the dust. And especially Brock in Pokemon. Oh, when you had the misfortune to choose Charmander in the first place. Are you the Charmander team? And of course, Ganon in Zelda, that we had to deal with after Ganondorf when we thought we would finally be safe. Just kidding on that last one. Only took me 2 tries. And then there are the bosses that give bosses a bad name. And then there's the soft ones that are fun to beat. I mean, beating a boss doesn't have to be a horrible experience. Thank you, Bowser in Super Mario Sunshine, for staying in your hot tub. Thank you. So, would video games be as enticing if bosses weren't a thing? Helping me find out are my awesome guests. Joining me are Emile Morel, creative director with Ubisoft, who's worked on such games as Rayman Legends and currently working on Beyond Good and Evil 2. We've got Rachel Howie, aka Don't Rage Quit, gamer and Twitch partner, and famous for her Dark Souls streams as well. And also, we've got gamer, presenter from the jump, top man, Mr. Midas.
Thank you so much for having us, my G.
No, thank you guys, because you gotta help me find out the answer to this question. Why do we have bosses in video games? Emile.
Wow. So in terms of, I would say, pure game design, I think bosses, it's a way, when you've been doing one level or a few levels in old school games, the boss was the ultimate test to see if you have really learned and mastered what you had been taught before in the previous level.
That's true, but it feels a bit like school though, when you got the exams at the end and you got to revise and you got to remember everything you've done. Why can't it be a culmination of all the work I've done before, like coursework? Why can't it be that?
I think really the idea is also to have something a bit, spectacular, a bit epic, a bit challenging, and yeah, it's defeating a boss is always like a reward in itself, It's something. I mean, to me, a good boss, you have to, sweat a bit on your controllers, try a few times, and yes, I think that's super rewarding just as a player, to defeat like big challenge like this.
That's true. Rach, you know about crazy boss fights, don't you?
Love a boss fight.
What's the hardest boss that you've had to face?
It has to be the final boss of just the regular playthrough of Sekiro. His name is Shin. He is not fun. I cried.
Well, me and Midas wouldn't even know about it. We ain't got that far in the game.
I haven't even seen the last boss. I saw boss number 2, and that's as far as I got.
I haven't played Sekiro, but I would compare it to Bloodborne. To me, in Bloodborne, like every enemy at the beginning is almost a boss in itself, and you're sweating on your controller already. Like,
isn't that unfair though, Midas? Is it unfair to just like chuck big bosses like at you right at the start of the game?
Yeah, fam, try to stress me out, give me grey hairs and then sit there. Like, nah, do you know what? I think it really depends what type of player you are, because there are some players, some gamers who their joy is to be challenged. They want to feel like they're smarter than everybody else, they're stronger than everybody else, and they can defeat the bosses that I can't.
So rape, yeah?
Yeah, basically rape.
Okay.
They can defeat the ones that I can't. So yeah, it really depends what type of gamer you are, innit?
Okay. What's one of the toughest bosses for you, Emile?
I don't really know if it's that tough, but it's a memory of when I was young, you know. A game that you may have heard of, Strider. And at that time, what made it super hard is that when you were dying, you had to start right from the beginning. So every boss was like, oh no, please, you're going to, to have to learn the pattern and everything. And I don't know why, but the end boss of Strider used to be so hard for me as a kid. And hard to the point that I called, I don't know if you had this in the UK, but in France we had this. It was called Master Sega. You could call Master Sega on phone, and you had people answering you and telling you how to defeat the boss. So I called Master Sega and I asked, what can I do to defeat the Strider final boss? And he had no idea. So I guess I never finished the game.
Yeah, the master, ring him out. He's got him on the hotline. I love that. Nintendo used to do a thing like that. They used to have like Nintendo hotline, isn't it? When you had difficulty with like a particular game, you could call it up and there'd be experts on that other line to kind of guide you through.
Experts. Somebody's dad, basically.
Someone's dad, yeah. And it's costing £1 a minute as well. Midas, for you, what's the tough one for you, man?
I love myself a JRPG, and Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite games. Sephiroth is one of my favorite bosses ever. But why, oh why are the boss fights 45 minutes long, fam?
Yeah.
Fam, when you play Sephiroth, the final battle, half an hour, you die. You gotta start all again.
Yeah.
And not only do you have to start again from that boss, you have to start before you get to him. So you gotta
go through the cutscenes.
Before the cutscenes, you gotta fight about 10 other man before you get to see Sephiroth again.
That's true. I felt that, man. I was playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. I got stuck on the crane boss. You have to fight a crane.
Wow.
That's weird. Not people.
Are we talking like
There's a guy in the crane.
There's
a guy operating the crane. So I gotta make it clear. There's a guy inside the crane.
Okay.
It's not just the crane, but like you're hitting the crane. Wow. And you have to hit the crane enough for him to fall out the crane so that you can beat him up before he gets back in the crane.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's just tough boss. But are there any bosses that you feel like really, really proud of? Like you've defeated in record time, or people you've heard that these bosses are super tough, but you've managed to like take them down like first time. And it's like, oh, I didn't find that hard. Are there any bosses that you've found that are like that?
Well, one of the most infamous bosses in Dark Souls is Ornstein and Smough. The thing that makes these guys so hard is that there's two of them, and they do not give you a break. They are one after the other. They are at you the whole time. So I beat them with one hand. And that took me about 2 weeks.
She's on a different level. She's on a different level.
Hey, some gamers only have one hand and they manage it, so why can't I?
That's true.
That's
true.
So that was
She is.
That was good fun.
I'm afraid.
Recently, I actually beat them without using a weapon as well.
Oh, wow. What, bare hands?
I was only rolling. So there's this armor set that has tiny wee spikes on it.
Oh, right.
And when you roll, it does like 10 damage and they have like 2,000 health. So that was good fun.
So you were doing the Sonic the Hedgehog technique?
Yes, it was the Sonic run. Yeah, so that was, I will never forget that as long as I live.
Can someone take away my gamer badge? I usually have to do the stuff that Rachel's talking about.
She's rolling.
Yeah, really rolling.
She's doing the Sonic the Hedgehog.
All right, we're going to take a minute to talk about your amazing dress because you are wearing something from my favorite game.
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda.
That's a good point. Ganondorf, man.
Ganondorf. So,
one of my favorite villains.
Breath of the Wild, all right? So Breath of the Wild is designed in an open sandbox that you can go straight to Ganon or you can go through the game. Because I love the game so much, I'm doing everything, every challenge, everything. Time I got to Ganon, I just gave him one backhand and he was done. I was like, Cannon, you meant to challenge me, fam. One piece of backhand and he was out of it.
It's a shame it didn't scale up, because some bosses scale, don't they? Because some bosses where when you're leveling up, the boss will also level up. So when you get to them, they're always a challenge. So, guys, what are the ingredients needed to make a good boss fight?
First, the fact that it needs to be a bit epic. So there needs to be a bit of, a great music, some mise en scène to introduce the boss and everything. Then I guess in terms of pure game design, you have the different patterns we already talked about. It used to be in all games 3 patterns, and each time it was a bit different. So it meant also 3 times you had to hit the boss to defeat him. These are classic rules. Now it can be a bit different. And I would say, to me, one of the easiest ingredients, but it still works, is the size. As soon as you have a huge creature in front of you, super tiny, it's going to be challenging, and you're already impressed, and you're going to be overly proud of defeating the boss because he was, 10 times.
Yeah, because I always think back to Metal Gear Solid, and you always hear about Metal Gear, but you don't see it until you get to the end of the game.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's this big tank thing. I got to take it out by myself, one little snake. But I love it. That was fantastic. Ingredients though, what's needed, Rach? What's needed? Because you've defeated some of the biggest and the baddest. Yeah, what do you find with one hand? What do you think is needed, particularly going forward in terms of games that we'll hopefully see in the future? What would you like to see with your boss fights?
I like fantasy, but so the boss has to be really ugly or really handsome. So nowhere in the middle, just one of the two. Sephiroth, of course,
just regular, Just a regular guy.
I guess they sort of work as checkpoints as well. We mentioned this earlier, where it needs to have something looking back at Zelda, or for example, Resi. So you've just got something new, for example, a grenade launcher. The next boss probably uses the grenade launcher. So I think what makes a really good boss, especially in Nintendo games like Zelda, is that it's almost a puzzle using something that you've just picked up. I like that.
Midas, do games need bosses?
I don't think a game necessarily needs a boss, but one thing that I find really interesting is now games have evolved. I feel like there's a big difference between a boss and an antagonist. So we have games like Far Cry Vass is one of my favorite quote unquote bosses, because he was just stalking you the whole game, and Sephiroth is just violating Cloud the whole game. So I really enjoy that kind of manipulative, I can't stand Mr. X, but I like that he bullied me still. I like that more than the old school Sonic the Hedgehog, where you just got Dr. Robotnik coming in and teething two animals and stuff like that. So I find the evolution of what bosses become an antagonist and them being part of the whole journey of the game, I find super interesting.
I'm with you there, because I'm a big fan of the Shenmue series, and you face Lan Di. You never really get to fight him properly.
Yeah, you're right. But it's there.
You're always too late, but he's always there, and he's always hovering over the top. That's interesting. Obviously, games without bosses can be fun. But what are the examples?
Well, one of my favorite games of all time is Ori and the Blind Forest. There's not really bosses per se. There's I want to say it's a gauntlet where you have to race. And that is as difficult as a boss. But the game doesn't need bosses. They actually added bosses in the sequel, and it didn't feel as impactful, in my opinion.
That's true, yeah. The first one didn't really have
I have in mind a game that, I don't know, they put an end boss at the end of the game, and I don't think it was really needed. It's a great game, so don't blame me for criticizing it. It's Uncharted 2. You have a boss at the end who's very classic in terms of, patterns, everything. And I don't know, it's not my best memory of the game. I love the whole game, all those, epic sequences that weren't about boss, more like, a tank chasing you in the street, a building collapsing, a chopper attacking you. And at the end, they put, more so a classic boss, and it's not that amazing. So I think it sort of proves your point that you can have a great experience. And when I'm thinking about, The Last of Us also, you have some bosses, you have some, those big zombies, monsters but not really classic boss in that sense, and the game works super well actually. So yeah.
Would you consider like gauntlets or like chase sequences final bosses? Because there's a few games that have them, like Halo Combat Evolved. That game finished off with you driving the warthog off to try and escape in time. There was no real massive boss at the end. Rayman Legends, you guys, you have a lot of musical kind of rhythm kind of based challenges rather than like huge spectacle bosses.
That's a really great point, because I don't know if you know, but so the game was supposed to be finished for the release of the Wii U at the time.
Okay.
But at the very last minute, it was decided to postpone the game to prepare Xbox version and PS3 version. And so we ended up having 6 more months to complete the game, make more content and everything. And at that time, we had no boss in the game, because we had the musical level that were to us epic enough and rewarding enough, and so we had decided originally not to have bosses in there. But then when we had more time, the first thing we decided as a team was, okay, let's add bosses, because it's cool to design.
We got 6 months.
Come
on, check it in, innit?
So
Rach would love it.
I do. I love Rayman so much.
But because you have to know also that creating bosses is actually super expensive. It can be the cost of several more classical levels, because you need specific ingredients, again, some mise en scène, some camera work, some specific music and everything.
Yeah, in terms of like, you're creating like an enemy AI that is responding in a specific way that the player's only gonna face one time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point, Emile, because I'm thinking, right, what is the best setups for like a boss? Because it's not just, it's one thing having a boss battle, but you have to set the boss up in the right way. You was talking about Sephiroth earlier in terms of how he plagues Cloud the entire way through the game, and to the point in which right at the end you get to face him properly. What's the best setups in games that you've played or experienced that you think, the boss might not necessarily be the best, but like the way they set that boss up, it's like, oh yeah, that feels, oh yeah, I like that.
Do you know, it's a random one. So I really love Super Mario Odyssey, when you throw in the cap and that. And what's really cool is, hopefully, spoilers if you haven't completed Odyssey, but when you get to the end, you throw the hat on Bowser.
Oh yeah.
And you're escaping with Bowser, so you actually become that boss. That boss that you've always been fighting, and you fight all the way through the game to become him, and that is such a sick setup. And we've been fighting Bowser for years, and I never ever thought, they're gonna make me beat Bowser.
But that's the thing, the seeds were there, because you could literally put the hat on most enemies and transform them. Like they were planting the seeds the entire way through the game, so I'm with you there. And then right at the end, it's like, the best way to beat Bowser, you got to become him. I love that. That's a great one. That's a great one.
That is so funny, because the first thing that came into my head was Bowser as well. You know Mario 64?
Yes.
The setup, so you go into the portal and then all you hear is and then you see his feet pure stomping, and he's like, Bowser! And he's like, oh yeah.
Then you get that laugh and
That's it. That's a boss fight, man. Nintendo just do that so well.
I agree, actually, because Ocarina of Time is probably one of my favorite like setups for Ganondorf, because you see the story of Ganondorf as when you're younger, and then you're like, nah, you can't face him. Then you see, as you grow older to become like I guess adult Link, you then see the devastation that he's caused, and then you finally at the end of the game get to climb the castle to finally face him, and you got the epic lightning storm, and it's like you said, Emile, it's all about that the setup and the music, and it swells, and it's like, I'm in tears, and then Zelda's over there, it's like, Link, let me do this. I was like, I'm doing it, Zelda, come on.
She finally actually does something in the game as well.
Yes, I'm waiting for the game so I can play as Zelda.
Wait, can we put some respect on Zelda's name? She was Chic. She was doing lots of stuff. She was doing lots of stuff as Chic. We've got to put some respect on her name.
But Emile, what's your favorite setup, man? What's that?
The first thing that came to mind when you asked the question to me was the beginning of God of War 2, where you have this huge statue that you're fighting,
big one.
And the way they introduce the statue, you first see, I guess, the hand or the feet or just a part of the face, destroying the whole city, the whole level around you, and finally at the end, you can fight it. So that's pretty epic. Yeah. But I love all the God of War bosses, actually. It's too easy to quote them because they're so impressive.
They're very impressive,
crazy,
aren't they? Yeah, they're always like epic, on an epic scale,
Exactly.
huge spectacles. Yeah. What's a boss that you'd never, ever want to face again?
Well, Final Fantasy VII Remake, got that platinum, and the hardest trophy is you got to fight all of the summons back to back with no potions.
No potion.
And you can't, if you die once, you have to start again, and you have to do all of them back to back.
Jeez.
Fam! Do you know how much times I almost smashed up my TV? I almost broke up the whole... Fam, I went to bed angry. You know when you sleep? You know when you sleep stiff?
Someone's upset tonight.
That's how angry. I woke up with my neck in stitches, everything.
You guys played Hades?
Yes.
Oh, I finally beat Hades once, and I thought, I'm good, I'm done.
Don't need
It's an incredible game, and I loved it, but oh my God, it took me so long to get there. I think I maybe did it in like 30 deaths, something like that. Yeah, it's not too bad, but like not great either. And
Did you do it with one hand or?
Just, no, two hands. I needed both for that. It's a hard game, but that is just like one where I thought, yeah, that was hard. I'm good. I'm gonna go play easy games like Dark Souls now, I think.
Whoa. Well, for me, it was in Demon Souls, the armored spider.
Really?
Yes, because I'd never played like a Dark Souls or type of game before, and silly me, I chose the thief, and so the thief has like a tiny dagger, and so in order to fight this armored spider, it's a huge spider, I have to go right up to the spider in order to do any sort of damage. I can't hit it from afar. I have to go right into the belly of the beast. It took me so many attempts.
Are you arachnophobic?
That as well. Emile, what's the one that tears your hair out?
It's not super clear in my mind. It's the final boss of Secret of Mana back then, a long time ago. I don't remember the shape of the boss, but I remember what you were describing, endless fight. Like during hours, using potions, reviving all my characters, using everything I could, and finally defeating him. Like it was almost a surprise. Like I did it, and yes, I would never like to go through that again.
That's a tough one.
It's the best.
That's like a double boss as well, because you fight one boss and then you have to go into the second phase.
Yeah, exactly. Those phases, this
in the Mana
transformation.
Fortress up in the sky. I feel you. I was there. What about hidden bosses though, guys? Or bosses or characters that weren't necessarily a boss to begin with and formed in that kind of way or played out like some sort of boss battle? What about those guys?
Well, I've just been wanting to talk about Resi 7 all day, so can we talk about Resi 7? So basically, right, I go and save my wife. She's just been at her job too long, and I just want to take her home. And it turns out the family she's been staying with just all of a sudden start attacking me. So you think it's fine, you're just sort of going about the house, and then all of a sudden, Dad just comes out with a pitchfork, and suddenly it's a boss fight. And it's like, there's something about just fighting people who are just people. I mean, he's not, obviously, he's full of like fungus or something, but like, it's Resi, he's got eyeballs everywhere.
He's got some sort of mutation.
But there's something in when we were talking about Far Cry and we're talking about Uncharted, and like, I love a big monster, I love a big dragon, but there's something really scary about fighting normal people, for
sure. I hear what you're saying, yeah, I hear what you're saying there. What about you, Emile?
Something that came to mind to me is, again, Last of Us 2. The end boss, the end fight, is one of these boss that you don't want to defeat.
No.
And that's just brilliant in terms of pure design.
It's definitely mature.
Because you've been involved in both characters. Again, I'm not saying too much, but yes, you just don't want to kill the boss. So
exactly that. Unique. It's a choice that the game forces you to make, but you don't necessarily want to make.
Exactly.
Another good example of that is Love Me RPG, and RPGs like to do that twist of someone's part of your party, you're all out together, and then sinister, that person's evil.
It was you all along, yeah.
And Final Fantasy X does that pretty well with the main boss of the game, Seymour, and he always kind of seems sneaky. You're like, why are you so sneaky? I don't like the way this brother's moving, And then it turns out, he's like the big boss and he's Mr. Evil.
I like those twists. I always think of Vagrant Story on the PlayStation 1. There's a guy you're going after, Sid, and you even fight him. Well, you don't really get to fight him in the prologue, but you almost get to fight him, and then he runs away. And then later on, he flips it, and he's on your side.
No, I don't trust them, man. There.
But I love that because it was a boss that I thought was going to be a boss. They set it up to be he's the guy we're going after. Halfway through the game, you're working together. Speaking of hidden bosses, can we talk about Shadow of the Colossus? You know about that? You know about that? Boy, Emile.
I think we need to talk about it. We're going to talk about boss. We need to talk about this game.
What is Shadow of the Colossus?
It's boss after boss. The whole game is just boss, and what's great is that nothing is missing in this game. You're not like, why didn't they put anything else on the boss? No, the boss makes the whole experience, and you remember all of them, the way you had to climb on them or find ways to hit them and everything. No, it's just,
there's literally not much in between the different bosses. It's just open world, you
just
and your
navigating,
horse.
exactly, with your sword, trying to see where they are, and just, I have amazing memories from this game.
I guess it is emotionally as well, the feeling of you taking down the bosses. You're supposed to feel triumphant when you beat a boss, and you don't in that
You're
game.
right.
Yeah.
And the more bosses you take on, the
right.
less triumphant you feel. Like, oh, I don't even want to do this.
You feel their pain, they're like wounded animals, and you don't want to stick like the sword in their head, but just sort of ask to do it, but
Tell you what, though, a boss rush game that I really did want to stick a sword in their head is flipping Cuphead, man. I finally beat Cuphead this year. Finally. Oh, it's so hard, man. Like, I swear to God, the stories were true. They're not exaggerated. It's so hard. But that is, again, the feeling of just simply walking in, fighting the boss, either dying, well, most of the time dying, or coming out triumphant. You just felt so good coming out the other end. It's just incredible.
So we was talking earlier about Nier Automata, and I love Nier. Like, it's such a crazy and bizarre game. But the most interesting thing about Nier is you can complete the game and you can beat the last bosses without getting any damage, because you can actually program yourself to not get hit. So like, I think I was playing Nier and I think I was getting battered, and I was like, let me just add on this little circuit, changing up my circuits, and then when you change the circuit, you automatically dodge. So no matter how much times the boss tries to hit you, they can never hit you. So it's probably the only game I've ever played that you can set it up that you can't lose.
But you make it sound quite easy. Is it not meant to be quite hard?
It is quite hard when you don't add on the easy mode. Don't shame me. Just because I added it on, it was the last boss. They didn't have much time left.
It's fine.
Right, let's move on. It's time for the boss quiz.
right.
Who's going to be the boss?
Now, I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions. I'm also going to give you 4 answers. You have to choose which answer out of the 4 is the correct answer, and whoever has the most points at the end becomes Big Boss.
Oh, Metal Gear.
You like it? You like it? I like it. Here we go. Okay. First question. Since we're talking about bosses, in Metal Gear Solid 3, there is a character called The Boss. Which actress do you think inspired her? A. Faye Dunaway, B. Angelina Jolie, C. Charlotte Rampling, or D. Miriam Margolyes?
I don't know who none of them people are. I don't remember any of them, so I'm just gonna say C.
C. All right, cool.
And I similarly might go with A. I know it can't be Angelina Jolie because the boss is like this long blonde-haired woman, isn't she? Right? I don't know Metal Gear Solid.
I can't help you out.
Maybe I know it because she's half French, but it's, I guess, Charlotte Rampling.
Oh. The correct answer is Charlotte. Yeah, there we go.
What letter was that?
That was C. That was you.
Yeah, see, you had it.
Wait,
Well done.
I got it just by the letter.
Yeah.
Unfair advantage. Right, Scottish bosses next time.
Okay, Scottish boss is next. Next question. In what year did the first boss in the history of video games appear? A. 1965. B. 1974. C. 1986. Or D. It is oppressive as humans to say which video game character can be called a boss or not, so I prefer not to say this question.
So I'm thinking it's probably Donkey Kong in Jumpman. So I'm gonna go, what is it, 1976?
We got 1974.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
We'll go with 74.
Okay.
Yeah, 74 makes sense. Of
course.
I have no idea what boss it was, but yeah, makes sense.
The correct answer is B. 1974.
Hey.
Who was it?
Yeah.
Me no.
You don't even know.
Okay.
It was Jumpman.
Oh, Midas, you are correct. It
Well
was
done, well
Jumpman.
Oh, look at
Jumpman. Next question. The boss Death from Castlevania on the NES can be defeated with a simple weapon. Which one is it? A, holy water. B, a clove of garlic. C, you need 2 weapons, a stake and a crucifix. Or D, a Judas Priest album.
Right, I will go with holy water.
Okay.
So will I.
Going holy
I
water.
would say also, you could throw holy water like this, like, yeah.
Okay, okay.
it's
Yeah,
that.
Emile is recounting the times. He knows the arc of the holy water. Correct answer is A, holy water.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Next question. In Mega Man, there's a secondary boss considered even harder than the final boss. What is its name? A, Blue Smog. B, Green Hornet. C, Purple Rain. Or D, Yellow Devil.
Purple Rain. Well, I don't think they would be able to call him Purple Rain for licensing reasons. So I'm going to go with the Yellow Hornet.
There was no Yellow Hornet, it was Green Hornet or Yellow Devil.
You mixed two of them.
We'll go with Yellow Devil.
Yellow Devil.
Green Hornet.
Green Hornet.
Let's go for Yellow Devil.
Yellow Devil?
Also, yeah.
The correct answer is D, Yellow Devil.
Jeez.
Look at that, here we go. Astaroth, the final boss of the game Nomad Soul, known to be unbeatable, has a weak point. What is the weak point? A, his back. B, his nose. C, his eyes. Or D, his tasting clothing.
It's gotta be his eyes, right? See? Shoot in the eyeballs,
Why
right?
not? Yeah.
It's gotta be.
I would say his back.
His back?
I'm going to go his back as well.
C-A-A. The correct answer is A, his back.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Not
sure
his
he would
eyes.
also, you know,
Yeah.
his eyes would
hurt
that
as
would
well.
also hurt.
Yeah. I believe
It
you.
makes sense. He just has back pains, I guess.
My back! Oh, my back!
Next question. Once defeated, Ganondorf, the final boss of Ocarina of Time, evolves into a new boss. What is his name? A, Ganon. B, Garganon. C, Super Ganon. Or D, Ganondorf Reloaded.
I would go Super Ganon.
Super
that
Ganon.
doesn't sound great, but
That sounds the evolution to me.
yeah, but a bit too
I
simple.
don't know why I think
really
it might
don't
just
know.
be Ganon.
Super Ganon.
It's Ganon.
It is
Oh,
Ganon. I
oh,
know
you
it is
wow.
Ganon. It is Ganon.
Let me correct you, lot.
You wait too much to get it wrong.
Okay.
I knew it was
I thought
Ganon.
I was supposed to be saying the answers. A, Ganon. There we go.
Finally.
Yeah, because he goes
Good,
from
good
Ganondorf
job.
to Ganon. I should have known.
Super
Yeah,
Ganon
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense, though. Next question. To beat the boss Emerald weapon in Final Fantasy VII, there is a time limit. How long is it? A, 5 minutes. B, 10 minutes. C, 20 minutes. Or D, 20 days. This boss has a lot of HP.
Oh, let's go 10.
10.
Yeah.
20.
At 20, we're going to C.
I think it's 20.
C is 20. The correct answer is C, 20 minutes.
That's
There we are.
nice.
Next question. The ultimate boss of the Batman Arkham series, the Joker, was dubbed by which star?
That's easy.
Everyone knows this.
That's
A,
easy. That's easy.
Heath Ledger. B, George W. Bush. C, Russell Brand. Or D, Mark Hamill.
Should we all say
1,
D.
2, 3, D.
Mark Emile.
Yeah, correct. D, Mark Hamill. There we go.
E.
Some say the best Joker. Next question. The arcade game Punch-Out has been re-released in honor of a famous athlete who is very hard to beat. What is this game called? A, Muhammad Ali's Punch-Out. B, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. C, Teddy Reiner's Punch-Out. Or D, Samir Nasseri's Punch-Out.
Well, I know this. Does everyone know this?
I can guess. I
I
think
would say
B, Mike Tyson.
yeah.
Tyson.
B, yeah.
B, Mike Tyson's
Yay.
Punch-Out. Yeah, there
Nice.
we go, there we go. Okay. Points have been added up.
It's all
Done
get
my
close.
quick maths.
It's tense. I'm
Yeah.
tense.
And I can declare that the winner and the big boss is none other than Mr. Midas. There we go. Well done.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Midas.
Where's my check?
It's in the post, bro.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining me, Emile, Rachel, and
you.
Mr. Midas today. And you guys stay tuned for the top 5 coming up now. A boss by definition is difficult. It's hard to beat. You lose. You lose again. You lose again and you send your controller flying across the room full of rage and spite. That's the game. But there are times when you think that video game designers have pushed the envelope a bit too far. The proof is in these 5 impossible to beat bosses, the ones that made us lose faith in our Nintendo. Yozora, Kingdom Hearts 3. Yuzora is worse than the 7 plagues of Egypt, and the 17 blisters of the game is fun. If your actions are not perfectly choreographed and your attacks are not to the millimeter, it's impossible to overcome his 20 life bars. Yes, because the guy has 20 life bars. And to make matters worse, he has 20 life bars that you must know by heart if you want to stand a chance of survival. What happiness!
Sorry, but I don't lose.
King Dice, Cuphead. This boss cost us hundreds of hours of play and as many hours of psychotherapy. So, is it because of his demonic smile, his unpredictable attacks, the oppressive music that plays in your head when you've lost 156 times in a row? Who knows? Who knows? Personally, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Or ever. Ishin, Sekiro. Ishin is simple. It's 4 combat phases, a deluge of unstoppable attacks, lots of feints and devastating combos that send you to the mat in one go. So, no, it's not easy. My advice, imagine it's your boss. It works for me every time. Just hope he doesn't watch this show. Sigrin, God of War. Sigrin is so boring. To beat anyway. With her scythe attacks, her spells, and the 8 Valkyries that you have to fight before you can fight her. Oh, you think that the game designers were a bit sadistic? Maybe even more twisted than the boss herself. Just saying. Medea, Dark Souls. Medea is the last boss of the last bosses. The hellish cherry on my nightmare cake. Just saying his name makes my hand shake as much as my controller did 10 years ago. Ooh, that's it. Stop the video. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.